Let me see your identification.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
You must be Igor.
You've got a real attitude problem. Danger's my middle name.
Wait, let me explain something to you.
I am an FBI agent!
I know, man, isn't it wild?
Well, my mistake!
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid? Why?
Are you shook up? Are you nervous?
Supernatural, perhaps.
Right, look at that. God help us.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
We'd like to get a sample of your brain tissue.
Okay.
Should I give him some medicine?
It's alive!
You know what's going on? Maybe it's another drill.
Welcome to Face the Real podcast that inspires and changes lives. Working as a stuntman and stunt coordinator in the motion picture and television world for over 27 years, I had the pleasure to meet and work with some amazing people. Actors, producers, directors, wardrobe, hair and makeup, fellow stunt performers, you name it. Here you get to hear some unbelievable stories from awesome people and their journeys through their lives, their struggles, and how they got to where they are today. Some of them funny, some of them sad, but never boring, and hopefully will help you to reach your goals, whatever they might be. I am Oliver Keller, and I'm excited to have you with me to face the real Vinny O'Brien.
Got it. Okay.
Well, hey, Vinny, thank you so much for being on Face the Real. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me, dude.
Been missing you, man. I wish we could see each other more often. It's been a while.
Yes, sir. Likewise.
So I want to start with the fact that there's a few things that I didn't even know about you. I mean, I knew you were boxing back in the day, but I had no idea you were an ex-professional boxer, former Golden Glove champion. That's crazy. An Alaskan commercial fisherman. Not surprisingly.
Yeah.
Competitive motocross racer for many, many years, starting at the age of 7, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were born on the West Coast, but you grew up on the East Coast.
I was born in San Diego, but then it's a story I always say. At 5 years old, my parents hated me and moved me back to the East Coast. So, where I had to learn how to fight and deal with the cold, so, we went there and we were in Bayonne, New Jersey / New York, and then into some boroughs of Jersey as well. So then that's where I ended up graduating. High school was in Jersey, and then went through life and ended up back in California.
Yeah, right?
yeah, which I love,
So tell me, what was little Vinny like as a kid? How was your growing up in Jersey? How was that?
Little Vinny, so I was always a class clown. I was kind of, the guy, the teachers that hated me but loved me. I made them laugh, but they also wanted to kick me out of the classroom. So, but I've always been high energy. It's just been who I am. I've always wanted to have fun. I've always wanted to just, I don't know, I guess I'm that kid that's in the neighborhood I want everybody to have as much fun as I'm having, and so I just kind of was that guy. And in my family, I'm one of 4, and I'm the oldest boy, and I have an older sister, but everybody in my family kind of looks at me like the oldest because I kind of just march to the beat of my own drum. I just been always doing my own thing, and I just kind of see something I want to go after, and there's nothing you can really tell me, I'm going to go after it, so it's kind of, I've always been enthusiastic, I've always been high energy, I always just, I don't know, it's easy to get negative, so for me, I just try and stay the positive route,
Yeah, you're still that way too. I mean, whatever you do 100% and beyond,
Well, that's the only way if it's for you or not, right? So for me, it's like, I always jumped in because I realized, through a couple different lessons in my life that I learned this at, but like when you jump halfway in, you don't know if it's in your cards or not, But if I sit there and I jump all in and I fall on my face and I fail, I'm like, okay, it's not in my cards or it is, or I can try a different approach now. But if you half-ass it, how are you going to know? So for me, it's like, I don't like other people's movies reviews, I guess. I like to get my own review, and see what it is. And I give it my all. I never quit until I finish it, and then from there I make a decision.
Yeah, right. If you have a passion for it, then it's gonna take some time to get there. But and you're gonna fail, but you're gonna just keep getting up and continue. But how did you get into racing motocross at such a young age? In Jersey?
That was just kind of a thing where it was me and my brother. Me and my brother were crazy, and my parents had divorced by the time I was about 8 or 9 years old. And my mom was smart because she kept us in a bunch of athletics, and she made sure that from season to season, like all 3 seasons, we were always in a different sport. And then we visited my father, and my father knew that we were crazy, and we also loved the extreme side because I skateboarded growing up. I did BMX, rollerblading, you name it, we did it. And I mean, from extreme to traditional sports, we were all over the map, And so we just liked that competition. We liked having fun, And that's how me and my brother, we always rocked through life doing that kind of stuff. And my dad knew we always loved motors, and we had little bikes from the get-go. And then we just kind of got into it there was trails that we used to ride, and we used to go up to this place, Tower City in Pennsylvania, and we used to do weekend trips and ride out there. And then we just ended up evolving and getting into racing, And we were the poor guys at the races. We'd show up in a van with 3 bikes crammed in the back, and we'd go, and he'd race sometimes too, And but we just showed up, and sometimes that was our only practice. And I didn't have a coach showing me like, hey, elbows up here, doing this here, So we had talent. We podiumed on a good amount of races, and we did our thing. Like, I guess we were naturals at it in a sense, but we just didn't. I don't think we put the energy into it that we could have, which would have been fun, but different life, right? So for me, we just sat there, and it was something really fun. Me and my father and my brother really enjoyed coming together with it, and and just go out there, and it's a really fun atmosphere being in the racing atmosphere. It's enjoyable. It's a lifestyle,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just and it just evolved. That's what it was, So
that's cool. How long did you race?
So I've ridden since I was 7 years old, but I only raced for 4 years. So like my high school years, yeah, pretty much as I became a freshman in high school, and then I raced all the way until I was about 1 year after high school, so. But it was on and off, and it's very sporadic. I wasn't as dedicated as I was other sports. Like I was a 9-year wrestler, and I kind of put a lot more energy into that than I did into motocross. But we always just did it, and we would show up to races when we could.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then what was your career path? I mean, at that age, I assume you're a teenager when you were racing.
Yeah, so I was a teenager. We were rocking. My senior year, I was in a race, and I was battling with a kid for 4th place. I overshot a tabletop. Only bone I ever broke in my body, and I overshot. I was probably about 50 feet in the air, and I broke my ankle in 2 spots. On the 2nd lap, I raced 3 more laps, finished the race, had no idea my ankle was broken. I just felt like a stinger in my heel. And as soon as I got off the race, I guess the adrenaline stopped, and I fell over, and I was just in pain. And the EMTs thought it was a great idea to take my boot off, which I don't know if you've ever had a motocross boot on, but they thought they're very stiff and rigid and horrible to take off, especially when you broke your ankle in 2 spots. So that was a very painful thing, and I made sure I had that cast off. So I broke that 3 weeks and 1 day before my prom. So and a girl, one of the hotter girls of our high school, had asked me out to prom, and so she saw me show up that Monday. She was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Listen, don't worry, I'll have this off by prom." So I talked to the doctor, and long story short, I ended up hacking this cast off 3 weeks in, and I went to prom and just taped it up really tight. So
was she worth it?
She was worth it. It was worth it. It was a good time. We had a good time. We had a good time. So then we did that, and then I ended up doing like an East Coast series in Florida after high school. I didn't go to college right away, and then I did an East Coast series down in South Florida. I was racing, or my practice track was the Seminole track, and I was staying at my grandparents, and my pops were down there, and I raced down there for about 3 or 4 months and had fun, and just wasn't in the cards. Just kind of moved on and was like, okay, got to see what I'm doing, and went back to Jersey and started kind of living out there, and then my mom is who got me into boxing. So everybody's kind of shocked when they hear that, that my mom was the one that got me into boxing. But she just knew I needed some discipline. What was that?
How did that work out? How did that start?
It was really funny. So she knew my coach, who ended up becoming my coach who I won the Golden Gloves with and started my professional career with. And I met him, and he didn't have time for me at the time, but he got me into a gym and stuff like that, and he did his little test, and he's like, okay, go for it. So I started training at this gym, and at first she was trying to get my brother to do boxing because he needed direction as well, and he's a bruiser, and I'm just always so nice that she wasn't sure that I'd be a bruiser, But it turns out, I guess I'm a pretty good bruiser. So I went ahead and I got into this gym, and 3 weeks in, I guess I was hitting the bag and stuff like that. They asked me, and I didn't know this. I was a naive kid. I didn't know they were setting me up and throwing me to the wolves. But the guy goes, hey, you want to easy spar? And I'm like, yeah, I'll easy spar. That's what I'm doing this for, So I get in there, and there's a guy, unbeknownst to me, he's 3-0, and he's getting ready for a fight. He's been boxing for 2-3 years, whatever, and I get in there, and I think within 30 seconds I saw white like 5 times, and he was just knocking my head. I didn't go down, and they just kept on like, you good? You good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I kept on going, and first round just beat the crap out of me. Second round, beat the crap out of me, and then for some reason, I don't know what it was, but he was a lefty, and I saw him as he was jumping in with his jab. He liked to jump in with his jab, and I don't know how my brain saw this. To this day, I've never done anything at that point, but he jumped in with a jab, and I threw an uppercut so beautiful, and I hit him in the sternum, and he went like right down. Like, I mean, to this day, I've never knocked the air out of anybody like this. Not as a professional, not as an amateur, not anything, right? Even when I got way better, I knocked this kid down. He couldn't breathe for 5 minutes. They called off sparring, and I was like, I like this shit. This is cool.
And you were how old at that time?
That was about 18. Yeah, about 18, going to be 19 around. So, yeah. Wow. So, and then, I just kind of jumped in. And once that happened, then I kind of was like, okay, what's up with the fights? And I kind of jumped all in, my way. I just kind of jumped all in, saw when the next fights were, saw all this kind of stuff, and just started, kind of plowing my way through some fights and getting some really good, tough sparring in. And I kind of took it over by storm. That everybody was like, because it's a small knit community, and I came out of nowhere, and I was just this white boy. Because in boxing, it's a very black and Hispanic, culture, and so as white boy, really? You're known as the white boy, and so especially in Jersey and New York, I'd go to all these gyms, and I'm the only white boy in the gym, and
no
so.
Way.
And what they don't, and the thing is, it sucks, but it's a shitty thing around the culture, is they want to take out the white boy. They don't want me fighting. They don't want me sitting there, so they kind of threw me to the wolves every gym I went to, but it made me the wolf that I became, made me the lion that I became, because, sure. I got my butt kicked a good amount of times, but then I came back, and one of my things I'm proud of, I guess, in my career is I've been knocked down, but I've never been knocked out, and these guys knew this, and then I became a more intelligent fighter, and not just a bruiser, because I always had a good punch, I always had a good chin, but then I started getting some boxing IQ and some boxing knowledge and some feints, and really started putting some of the puzzle pieces together, and becoming a good fighter, and it was just inside me. I always tell people, boxing, you don't find boxing finds you. It's a certain breed of a person that's willing to get punched in the face and and keep going, and it's a sport. Every fighter, we all respect each other, no matter if there's the jibber jabber and the going back and forth. There's a certain level of respect when you're in that ring against another person who's willing to jump in between those ropes and fight. So it's, for me, it was boxing is, to this day, and I get chills as I talk about it, it's one of my, I love boxing. It's one of my crafts, and it taught me a lot of lessons in life in a lot of ways.
Wow. Like what?
For me, it's just about work ethic, So for me, I sat there, you can sit there and just like anything, you go after it, and it's about the work that you put in. It's a very singular sport, right? So you're by yourself. Yeah, you have your coaches, you have everybody, but nobody can go into the rings with you, right? So, nobody can go in and fight the fight for you. So, it's you having that problem solving in that immediate time that, you know, you can either play victim or you're going to sit there and you're going to be, you know, a champion in the moment. You know, so there's a time and what it takes is why I became who I was my work ethic. So I sat there with my conditioning, my road work, and the amount of hours that I put in the gym and my nutrition. I really dove in as much as I could to learn and become my best coach, you know, and put the work in that was due, just like anybody. I always say this for anybody, like the Kobes, the MJs, the Derek Jeters, the Lionel Messis, all these guys, everybody's like, oh yeah, but they're just freak athletes. Listen, they're very good athletes, right? But the common denominator is work ethic. You hear about any one of them, you know, the Derek Jeters, all these guys, you hear them, they are always the ones that are last in the gym. They're always working the hardest, you know, and they've been doing this since they were 10 years old. There's a reason why they're the greatest. It's because they've been working their asses off, you know, from that point to now, you know, and to wherever they are. And Kobe said it best in one of his interviews. He goes, you know, if you work at something 1 hour a day or 1 hour a week, you're going to get good over time. He's like, but if you do something 1 hour a day, the math will add up to you getting better. If you do 1 hour a day, you will exponentially get better like that. Because it's the amount of work, it's the math. The math will add up to that. So
it's a no-brainer.
It's for me, you know, yeah, you just got to put the work in. You know, just in anything, and if you find that passion, if you find anything that lights up your heart, lights up your soul, like gets you dreaming about it at night where you can't sleep, or when you wake up you're excited to do it, you know. The training wasn't always my funnest, or wasn't my most fun part of boxing, but, you know, there's sometimes the sparring and the fighting, like when I got under the lights, like that was the fun part. You know, when I fought in front of 11,000 people, like the thing about me is I didn't have a crazy long career in boxing, but I fought on 4 IBF championship cards. I fought on ESPN Friday Night Fights. You know, I fought in front of 11,000 people, you know, on pay-per-view. And these moments, they define what you do, you know, and there's a lot of times, like my pro debut, which I sold $25,000 worth of tickets. Like I was a big fan draw, you know.
Wow.
And I was sick. I was sick as a dog. I passed out on core seating that day for 4 hours. I was so stuffed up, I had to hide it from the doctors. I had brown stuff coming out of me, like just horrible mucus, just everywhere. I couldn't breathe anything. And so then they come into my dressing room and they tell me, hey, you know, you're gonna be on pay-per-view tonight. And I'm like, oh, cool, you know. So here's like another thing, like just tossed onto you, you know. And right before the fight, I stuck some Vicks Vapor Rub up my nose so I could breathe for 5 minutes. And, you know, I knocked the guy out in the 3rd round. So it's just like you either are going to, you know, you're going to pull up, you know, and get it done or not. You know, it's that simple. There's nobody who's going to bail you out. You know, and that's, for me, that's, if you have somebody that can bail you out and stuff in life, that's a bonus. But you shouldn't bank on it. You know, and so for me, that kind of, I learned that from boxing, jump all in on things. You know, that I learned that from boxing. You know, and you just take the lumps. You know, you don't, just because you get hit with a hard shot doesn't mean that's the fight. Just because the whole crowd just sat there and went, ooh, doesn't mean that's the fight. Like I remember my Golden Glove finals, me and the kid are battling. I won the 1st round, he won the 2nd round. It goes into the 3rd round, and I came in with a punch, and I'm like this, I'm exposed. Because when you go to knock out, you're in an exposed place. And so I go to knock him out like this, and he catches me with a beautiful uppercut. Froze me, stuck me. If you would have followed up with another punch, you probably would have knocked me down. And the whole crowd just goes nuts. There's like 3,000 people there. And they're like, oh! And if I stopped in that moment and shelled up, that would have been the fight. He would have took the momentum. But in that split second, I came over the top with the overhand right, and I knocked him back to the ropes. And then the crowd was, oh! You know, and it went nuts. And it was just in that split second of where you are, what you're doing, you know, your instincts of where you're going, of digging down, you know, and, you know, there's always a solution. It's just on you to find it, you know.
Do you, as a fighter, in such moments, are you even aware of your surroundings? Do you hear the people, or is it all like right there with?
So the trick is like what you have to do is, I always kind of tell people as athletes, you know, focus is so underrated, right? Focus is so underrated, and especially in boxing, because so many people are you know, either talking crap or cheering or, you know, or everything, and you're tuned to hear your coach. So I've been in front of 11,000 people, but I can hear my coach no matter how softly he's speaking. I can hear my coach. And then I'm also looking at this opponent. You know, because I know my coach is telling me things so I can look at it outside the box and in a way that I'm not looking at it. You know, and then for me, it's my job to focus on him. So it's pretty easy to focus on that guy because he's the one punching you in the face. You know, so it's pretty easy to watch, try and see what he's doing. But you'll have these blips of you'll hear certain voices that you are familiar with, and they'll catch your attention. So you'll hear certain things and stuff, but it's your job to stay focused. Because it's not the shots that you see come and knock you out. It's the ones you don't see come and knock you out. And boxing is a game of milliseconds. You know, boxing is a game, just like any sport is a game of milliseconds. But it's me missing him, you know, okay, he moves his eyes when he goes to jab. Or, you know, or he faked his shoulder before he threw that right hand. These are something that can help me out, you know, rounds down the line, you know, that I miss at that very moment, you know. So as in tuned as I can be there and be in that moment, which is another lesson for me, is being in the moment, the more I can grasp and the easier I can be successful, you know, in that moment. If I'm there and I'm present, you know, and try and keep my heightened focus.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good lesson, a life lesson. You know, being in the moment is not an easy thing to do. A lot of times, it's so easy to get sidetracked and, you know, not listen to the person you talk to, or not paying attention to, you know, your opponent as a fighter, and anticipate what's coming next. But you've got to be right there in that moment.
And awesome. Like I had my grandmother. She was like a cheesy saying she used to say, but I always loved it, and she was a big part of my life, but she always said the present is a present for a reason, because it's a gift. You know, it's a gift. Being in this present, we always like to think of the negative, or we like to think of the future, so we can get anxious about this, or think about that, or think about this. Very, you know, the times that we can reel ourselves back into that moment, you know, it's very easy to become grateful and be happy and be content in that moment, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. You know,
right,
so,
absolutely.
You know, those, yeah.
And so how long did you compete boxing?
Well, through injuries, different managers going back and forth, I was probably competing for about 10 years. 10 years of competition boxing. And so, you know, I was a two-time Golden Glove finalist. I won it in 2010. In 2008, I made it to the finals, and I lost by 2 points. And that was me getting lost in the moment. I got lost in that moment, and then 2010 I won it, and then I turned professional, and then I fought in some big cards, and through some injuries and getting some managers and coaches and stuff like that, you know, things just didn't go the right way, the way I wanted in my career. But looking at where I am right now, I wouldn't change any of it. You know, I think God protected me. I'm not a religious guy, but I believe I met my God out in the Bering Sea. You know, and I believe there's just a creator, you know, and I believe that God gave me an advanced career. I fought on cards that some guys who have had 20, 30 fights have never fought on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I fought on with promoters that some guys with 20, 30 fights, because a lot of guys get powder puffed up. But for me, I believe that God just kind of gave me an advanced career, so I didn't get as much damage. You know, and I think you know, I didn't receive it as a kid either. You know, boxing. So I think it was just a beautiful time in my life that I was supposed to learn a bunch of lessons from, and it was supposed to catapult me through other areas of my life. And then in that time, towards the tail end, is actually how I got into commercial fishing, which it's a random story in itself, you know. So that's a funny one. Yeah. So I don't know if you want me to get into this right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah. So I was ranked at that time. I was ranked 178th in the world, and I was training with Hector Roca, who had 21 world champions. I was training at a Gleason's in New York, and I was living in New York. I was a New York bartender at one of the top 10 bars, and I wasn't drinking behind the bar. It was just a pure hustle, so I can work and I can work out. You know, because as a boxer, we don't have facilities. We have to pay for our stuff. You know, until you get those big paydays, right? Okay. And so I'm going and I'm sparring, and I'm a sparring partner for Carlos Abregu, who's #1 in the world. A bunch of guys that are coming into Gleason's, and I'm doing really well. And my coach, I'm undefeated with my coach over there, and it was just really, really awesome. And I ended up tearing 3 ligaments in my ankle on a run. I jumped off just off the curb, landed on a rock, and my ankle went the wrong way, and I just took me out. You know, it was a freak, stupid thing. You know, and took me out, and I was the head bartender at a party bar. Like, it was a party bar.
What was it called?
Fiddlesticks. It's in the West Village. And
Okay.
I went off the rails. I was drinking every night. I was working Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. I got more hammered working behind the bar than I did when I was out normal, you know, and not working. And then, you know, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday came around. All the bartenders that came to my bar, I would go to their bars. I was drinking 6-7 nights a week and partying all hours of the night. You know, and I must have done that from, 7-8 months. And I was just, the girls, the partying, drinking, drugs, you name it. You know what I mean? It was just all around it. And I was just in a path, you know? And
Right.
I had a guy who I had beat in the Golden Gloves. And he messaged me on Facebook. I never hung out with this kid. And he's a weirdo. I love him to death, but he's a weirdo, you know? And he messaged me, he goes, "Hey dude, I think you'd be a good commercial fisherman in Alaska. I see you haven't fought in a couple months. I think you'd be a good fisherman."
Kind of
I
random.
saw his message, and I was working at the bar actually, and I was like, commercial fisherman. And like, I've never watched Deadliest Catch. Like, before I went out there, I never watched any of these shows. No, I didn't know what it was. Like, I saw little blips of those shows, but like, so I started looking into it, and I thought Alaska was all snow. Like, I had no idea what Alaska was, you know? And so I started looking into it, and I was like, "Hey man, how do I get a job?" I was like, "Do I submit like a resume to these boats? Like, what the hell do I do, you know?" And he goes,
Yeah.
"Nah, dude, you just gotta kind of come out here, and you meet people, and you get a job." So I'm like, okay. He answered like very few questions. He was going out, and I ended up looking at tickets, and it kept on crossing my brain. And I was going into work one day, and I was looking at tickets, one-way tickets, 2 weeks from that date. It was actually 16 days from that date. And I would go to walk into work about 10 minutes before, and I stopped in this park right in the West Village. It's on like this little corner. It's a little park. And I sat on a bench. Sun's gleaming on me. It's beautiful. I'm watching people walk by. And this is the only time this ever happened in my life. And this is a God moment for me. I knew it was my thought. I knew it wasn't my thought, which is going to sound weird to anybody else, but it was a thought that I knew was not mine. And all it said was, "Vinny, if you don't leave now, you'll never leave." As soon as I heard, I'm getting chills right now just talking about this. As soon as I heard that, I booked the ticket one way.
Good for you.
Soon as I booked that ticket, I can relate that decision to right where I am to this day, you know? But as soon as I booked that ticket, I walked to my work. I was like, "Hey, man, I got to get my 2 weeks." And they're like, "Did you find a better job?" They knew I didn't, you know? And I was like, "Nah, I'm going to Alaska." And they're just like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? And I'm a leaseholder of an apartment. You know, I had to find a subletter for that and talk to my roommates where they were like, "What the hell, dude? You're leaving us to da-da-da." All this kind of stuff. Everybody I knew, my mom, my pops, my brother, everybody just told me not to go. They were all fearful, scared. They were like, "Dude, people were like, friends that I've never even talked to were like, "Dude, you're gonna die over there," like telling me how I'm gonna die over there, like freaked me out in certain ways. And I'm like, damn, am I making the right decision? Plus, the bar I worked for, it was a really good job. Like, you know, I made really good money, you know, and it was a 1.5 year waiting list just to get on this bar, you know, just to get a job, you know. And I went ahead, and they're like, "You're giving up all this. You're giving up your career. You're giving up boxing. You're giving up everything. You're giving up."
And you were how old at that time?
I was 25, 26, around that time. And I just experienced a very shallow life. You know, I was the cool guy at the bar, talking to all the girls, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, from the outside looking in, it was like, "Oh, Vinny's got the life." But it was just so shallow. You know, it was just nothing to me, you know. I felt so empty inside, you know. And I went. And I ended up camping out on a beach for a month and a half. Fucking with a bunch of hippies and / fishermen, and there was like 20 guys on the boat and or on the beach, and I camped there and I found jobs. And so I was in Homer at this time. And Homer's not like the commercial place. Where I went to in Homer, that's where my buddy was. And he wasn't that good of a fisherman. But he fished, but just not the big stuff, what I went there for. And so they were like, yo, dude, and there's a thing called beating the docks. And when you beat the docks, you walk up and down the fingers, right? So you go down the fingers of where all the boats are, and you go, and there's guys there. You walk up to them, hey, man, you looking for any day labor or deckhand work, which means deckhand, you're going out for fishing. Day labor is just they'll pay you $20 an hour to nets, paint a boat, wire wheel a boat, or just odds and ends stuff,
Right.
And so they told me this, and so what I did, all the hippies and everybody, they're all drinking, smoking, chilling. Well, I was up every morning at 7 a.m., and I would collect this firewood that came up onto the beach, and I would hide it, stash it in a spot, and then I'd go beat the docks for, at 7 a.m., and then I'd go around town, take care of my business, explore Alaska. Then 12 o'clock would come, I'd beat the docks again, see the same guys or different guys. Then 5 o'clock would come, and I'd beat the docks again. And I figured had the most chance of seeing the most amount of people, Mm-hmm. And so I saw the same guys so many different times. They're like, bro, you're a hustler. You need to go to Kodiak. Kodiak is the fishing spot. Like, you're a fisherman. You're a hustler. You need to go. And I heard it once. I heard it twice. I heard it third time at a bar. And I was like, Kodiak, let's go. And so I went ahead and I told my buddy, I was like, you can either come with me or stay here and be a hippie with these weirdos. I was like, or we can become a fisherman,
Okay, so the guy that thought you would be a great fisherman, he wasn't working.
He was doing some oyster farming, which I did for about a week. But there was a French guy who which was cool. We made like $15 an hour, and we drank beers and we'd shuck oysters, the best oysters I've ever had in my life. And he'd have a joint, and we'd all it was like a hippie like BS job. I was like, I didn't come to Alaska to be an oyster farmer. You know what I mean? I was like, this is cool, whatever, dude. I'm trying to get on a boat. Like, I came to Alaska to fish. I'm like, I want to get out in that ocean and I want to do some gnarly stuff. Stuff I didn't even know what it was. And so he was there, and I told him, I was like, listen, man, I'm leaving, and I had to take a 13 or 14 hour ferry ride from Homer to Kodiak, and I was like, I'm leaving in the morning. And so I hopped on, and he came with, and I landed in Kodiak, hitchhiked, got a ride to the docks, and as soon as I landed, I started beating the docks, walking up and down. I still had my backpack on, everything, all my gear, and last boat I came up to, I got a job, salmon fishing. The last boat, last finger, everything, Wow. And I got on I started salmon fishing, but that only went for another 4 weeks, and that was the end of that season. And then that's when I started going on to. Then I was like, I'm not done. That wasn't my Alaskan experience, So, and I knew more about fishing. I knew about the seasons. I knew about, because now what was next was fall season of pot cod. Now, pot cod is exactly like Alaska king crab fishing. Same gear, same everything. Just you're catching pot cod instead of crab. So,
really? Okay.
And it's kind of like the JV, even though it's harder in some senses of the word than crabbing. It's kind of the JV before you get to crabbing. So the gear, the pots, the knots, everything you need to know being on that boat, and and plus then you kind of earn it to get to the king crab prices,
Okay.
So I went out there and I did that I was out at sea for about 3 months, and that was the gnarliest moment of my life, and then that bred me that was the craziest fishing I've ever done. I was in 40-foot swells.
3 months?
I can count on every extremity of how many times I almost died. You know what I mean? I mean, like, really, people think I almost died. Like, I almost died. You know what I mean? Like, I almost got washed over the boat multiple times. Almost went over with pots multiple times. And in those moments, I tell people all the time, you don't feel it in your stomach, you feel it in your nuts. It's this moment you're like, oh, this is it. And for me, in those moments, I can count to like one really specific special moment that was the most serious. And it's not like Hollywood does it, where your life flashes before your eyes. For me, time got eerily slow and silent. And then everybody you love flashes before your eyes.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, I effed up. This is it. You know, like I came to terms, and I was just, all I asked, I was like, God, just please let everybody I know, let them know I love them, you know? And in that moment, I just, as soon as I said that, it was just like it was slow motion, and it was just like, and it came right back to fast time.
Yeah.
And thank God the pot stopped where it stopped, and I didn't go overboard with another 8 other pots, and which instant death. You know, you're not surviving in that water anyways, let alone going down with 3,000 pounds worth of pots. You know, and yeah. So it was that moment, you know, and that stuff right there, you know, of letting go. That's what I learned out there. You know, Alaska, I kind of was an animal in a lot of ways in my life of going through things, but Alaska was kind of the culmination, the final piece of making me who I am. And now being a stuntman is like another piece, you know, but that was a very, very, very big piece of my life of finding a certain strength inside of me, you know, because you can be strong when you see your opponent. You can be strong when you see what's coming at you. But when you don't see it coming at you, when it's something you know you have no chance at fighting, no chance at beating, you know, and you just have to surrender, it's a different kind of a strength, you know. And to me, that was the ocean, and the ocean was a very spiritual place for me, you know. Wow. And that showed me, and that, you know, the ocean is a beautiful, beautiful, ravenous monster, you know, and it can show you real quick who you are and how bad she is in a second. You know, I've seen it go from black calm, mirror, just as far as your eye can see, to 30-foot swells.
30-foot. You were mentioning 40-footers earlier too.
That was 2 weeks in too. 2 weeks in, I was into that, and that was the first time on those boats, and that was the first time I saw. It was bigger than our house on our boat. And the thing about 40-foot swells is you're going down 40, up 40. So you're looking at you're in these valleys looking up at this, you know, and you're just, what is this, you know? And we're working. And the thing about, you know, being an Alaskan commercial fisherman, like, no matter what boat you are, because I went from that and then I end up doing crabbing and going to other boats. But no matter what you go, you're working anywhere from 18 to 20 hours a day.
Really?
Minimum. Oh, we're high-fiving at 18-hour days. We're high-fiving each other. And I mean, that is consistent work. I came out of those boats shredded, dude. You're just, the amount you're working, you know, you're pushing around 800 pound pots all day. And you're going through anywhere from 200 to 300 pots a day. You know, that's the name of the game, is you got to turn these pots, right? So
what are pots? Explain that.
So pots are 4 foot, you know, or 3 foot or so, but they're 8 foot by 8 foot, 4 foot in width, 3 foot in width, steel pots, right? And so what they're doing, they're then attached to a line that is then attached to a buoy, and they will go as deep as anywhere from 100 feet all the way, and we call them fathoms, and that's that's a different story, but it'll go anywhere from 100 feet all the way down to 500 feet. You know, and sometimes lower, depending on what you're going for. You know, where
they're hanging off the arm, on the side arm off the boat.
No. So what they're independent. So we just drop them. So we go ahead and we're finding the highway of the sea. And so what you do is that, and you map it out, and as you're going, you're mapping these little strings out, almost like bus stops, and you're dropping your pots and trying to be along the highway, and you're putting your pots far close enough but far enough away so that it doesn't take away from other pots. You know, so now what our job is, we have bait in those pots, right? And there's 3 trap doors, and then there's 1 major door that's how we empty them, right? So the 3 trap doors, as you go down, they'll go in with the bait that brings them in, and then they can't get out, right? Mm-hmm. And then our job, what we do is we then hook them. We hook it by the buoy, take that line, put it through our hydraulic spinner, and now our block is going to send this up. We coil our line as it comes all the way up, and you know, you're just and you're just coil as this stuff comes up. Now this pot comes up, and now this pot is hanging out of the sea, and we got 2 guys on the rails, me and another guy, and that slams close. We got to hold this, because then you're in the sea. Now you're, it's easy when it's flat calm. When that sucker comes up and it's 800 pounds and it's slapping against the boat. But now when you're in 20-foot swells, 10-foot swells, now that your boat is in the ditch, so now you have an 800-pound wrecking ball, right? So you have this 800-pound wrecking ball, so we have to hold on to this sucker. So now we have to hold on to the sucker, and sometimes your door isn't where you need it to be. So the only way to get this right is we have to wait for a wave, and at the same time, me and my other rail guy have to look at each other, and we have to spin this pot, and then catch it, and suck it to the boat.
Wow.
And then you're putting, and then we all have our duties of rebaiting, bleeding the fish, or whether it's fish or crab or whatever, different things you're doing. Or sometimes we're repairing pots because triggers are broken, or sides are blown out, or whatever it is. There's welds that are broken. We make notes and da-da-da, and then we put our fish down and rebait it. Boom, send it back over. And you can't let these pots soak for too long, because now if you let them soak for like 8 hours, like if they're out there for too long, now other creatures are all going to come by, and there's like a lice inside the ocean that will eat up all your bait, and then there's octopus that will go inside your tanks or inside your pots, and they will eat all your fish, eat whatever you have. Yeah, so octopus are a whole another ballgame. So there's just this whole thing, and so all you're doing is you're just turning pots over day in, day out for 18, 20-hour days, and you're just going. Because the name of the game is, especially in pot cod, because crab, the reason why I say it's easier is because it's a 3-week sprint. There's only so much that you can get. But doing pot cod, it's the last of the cowboy way. You can get unlimited, but it's not as much as crab. It's very, very cheap. But it's a numbers game. If we're getting 1 million pounds, 2 million pounds, now we're making good money. So now it's you're a little bit longer. It's not a little bit long, a good amount longer, and you're out the ocean. You're working your butt off for 2 to 3 months. And you're just.
Wow, how long is one fishing trip?
So that trip that I was on, we didn't go back to town for 2 months.
You out in the water for 2 months?
Out on the ocean for 2 months. So what happens is you have tenders, bigger boats or same size boat, come to you with a vacuum system, suck your fish out of the boat, and then you keep fishing.
Wow, that's crazy.
So it's like and they bring us all our food, they bring us everything, because they're with the fisheries, they're with the canneries that are buying our fish. So they take our fish, we keep it moving. But we got to load those are the harder days, and it happened every 3 days or so, 4 days, because then you have to let off your fish, but then you start to fish harder. So sometimes those were the longest days. Like I remember some days I was up for 36 hours straight.
Wow.
And you're going, because captain's going. Your cap is, and thank God we had a really good captain on this boat, and I was blessed to have some really, really great captains through my fishing career, and he's busting his ass and he's staying awake and he's driving the boat. Like, even though he's not on deck with us, there's different challenges for him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And what happens is you don't want us to be in the ditch, because if you're a boat like this and we have, you have fish on board, right? Because our tanks could hold 80,000 pounds in each tank, right? So now if there's a slack tank, that's how boats go over, because you get caught in a ditch. And what happens in a ditch meaning is you have a wave here, and now you're parallel with those waves, right? So if you're parallel with those waves, your boat is doing this, and that's the easiest way for it to flip and go down, right? That's the easiest way. So his job is to see the direction of the waves and see all these kinds of things and keep the nose of the boat going in to these waves, and setting this up for pots. And when it's pissing out there, and whatever, I remember snowing out there, or 60, 80 knot winds and 20-foot swells, to get to a pot, he has to pull up to that buoy, and he has to get us close enough and keep us in the ditch so that we can throw a 30-foot hook, a 30-yard hook that can grab that pot, and then we have to get that in, So it's just it's just, to me, man, it's a very stressful job for a dude like. I swear to God, I had a certain level of PTSD from that. You know what I mean? Because everything is go, oh my God, go, get this, go get it. Everything is just frantic, and time is money, and it's just insanity, and you got to be on your stuff. You know what I mean? And it just, yeah, man, it was just intense. It was just really intense.
And you're wet and you're cold, and so
You're hurting, you're broken.
Right, and it's a mental stress as well, I could imagine, you know?
Dude, the mental is, I tell everybody right now, I'm like, you can do it. Anybody can do the 18. It sounds tough right now, but I'm like, the physical part, that's the easy part. That's the easy part. The mental part, that's where, you know, the evil plays games with you. You know, that's where you sit there and you find out all those doubts go through your mind, all those things go through your mind, and that is a cancer, you know? So it's like, if you're not that guy, like I know, like I can get on boats to this day for life because of my attitude. Because no matter in the worst of times, I was still good. I was still, hey, let's go. You know, let's go. Yeah. I'll pick up my brothers. Like whether I got to take that or they have to pick me up the next day, it's that attitude, you know? But if you have that negative attitude and that negative outlook, or that, it's a cancer, man. It just like that, it'll take up a boat. And captains don't want that. You know, and especially out there, like I said, it's easy to go negative. It's hard.
Absolutely.
You know, it's very you gotta be mentally tough and strength and just keep that fortitude of staying positive. You know.
Yeah, and that's probably where your boxing training came in helpful too. You know, and
100%.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's crazy. How big was that that fishing boat?
So that one was 82 feet. So that's not a really big boat. You know, a lot of the salmon fishing that I've done was anywhere from 32 feet to 50 feet, and that was an 82 footer. And then I did another boat, another fishing season on a 110 foot boat, and then I did a crab season on a 129 foot boat. And so and that was kind of back and forth. But then I ended up finishing with salmon. That was like towards the later end, I was like, I'm not going back out there anymore. I don't need to, because salmon's great money and not everything on the boat can kill you. And I just had a lot more homies that I knew out there, and it was kind of summer months, and it's the more fun, more pleasant, you know, style of fishing. You know, pot fishing is brutal. It's brutal, man. It's a different level, and I know a lot of guys like. Last year, I know 3 guys that we lost, you know. And
really?
Oh, dude, we would lose 5 guys a season. You know,
so you're not attached to anything on the?
Oh no.
The boat.
And we should have PFDs, personal flotation devices, that are low profile, but it's not manly as a fisherman, you know. So many guys don't wear it. But looking back on it now, I wish I wore them.
So
you know?
stupid.
It's so stupid.
It's crazy.
But it's just these stigmas that are created that are just ridiculous, you know.
Right.
But a lot of good captains make their guys wear that stuff. But the thing about it is, this is kind of the thinking around it, is when you go into that water, it's 42-degree water at its warmest.
Yeah.
So when you go in there, you got 5 minutes. I think you got about 7 or 8 if you're a fighter. You know, and people think, oh, well, yeah, even in calm water, 5-foot swells, they think, oh, yeah, the boat just has to turn around and grab you. It's not like that. The aft is the back of the boat, and that's where the house is. Then you have a whole another 60 foot of boat, 80 feet of boat, 100 feet of boat in front of you. And then you have your spotter guys that are up top, and that's 2 or 3 guys that are all looking for you, telling the captain, you know, and trying to find, and you're a speck, man.
Right.
When everything's white capping, you can't see you at all. It doesn't matter if you have a yellow bib on or, you know, raincoat or whatever. Dude, and when that water hits you, like one time, like my brother, because I got my brother into fishing, we were out there, and my brother, he realized who I was at that moment, but I had to jump in the water, and we got, on a salmon boat, we got lines wrapped up on our reel. One of our fishermen missed the line of our net, and it got wrapped up in our reel. So now we're dead in the water.
Shit.
Right? So we're dead in the water, and now we can't fish. It's one of our biggest days. We have 7,000 pounds on our boat. And so I started getting my bib off, and the captain, this is my first time, I got my brother on this boat, and he asked me to go. It was actually while I was a stuntman. It was like 2 years ago. And I went out there for 19 days, and I started taking my bibs and stuff off, and the skipper's like, what are you doing, dude? And I was like, give me a Vicky. I'm jumping down and cutting this line out. And being a Kodiak fisherman, he's not Kodiak. Being an Alaskan commercial fisherman is, to the world, you're a fisherman, right? But then in Alaska, being a Kodiak Alaskan commercial fisherman, you're the guys. We're in an island, and we're surrounded by the Shelikof Strait, the Bering Sea, the Gulf of Alaska. We're getting hammered from every side. Every other is in part of Alaska is like inner coastal waters. You know, they have breakups. There's islands that stuff, you know, so they don't know. So for us out in Kodiak, we're just like, you make it work no matter what. You know, so I jump. So my captain's like, nah, dude, no. the current's ripping, like, you're not doing this. And I go, okay. I was like, we just got 7,000 pounds. I was like, this is our biggest day. I was like, we're missing 8 more hours right now. I was like, so it's up to you. I was like, you do what you want. So he sat there and he's like, well, if you want to. I was like, all right, cool, sweet. So I jump in and they're like, take a rope. And I was like, okay. So I jump in and that's me willingly jumping in, being ready. And I'm sitting there. And this is 42 in the summer, 42-degree water. And I'm sitting there. It took me a minute and a half, just enough to get under 4 feet, because I had to swim under the boat, which was about 7 feet, 4 feet down. So just being there, holding, I was like this, like you can't take a breath. So I had to calm myself down. It took me a minute and a half just to calm myself down to take a breath, enough to get 15 seconds down, just to feel where the rope was, and to feel where I had to cut out. And so I ended up cutting out that rope, and getting it done. But it was just, that's to put it in terms of what that water is like. That water is so damn cold. You can't, you start gasping for air, then water jumps in your mouth, you start choking. Just like that, you're done, man.
And it's really dark water too, right? It's
dark,
like nearly black.
Black, winds blowing, white capping everywhere, so it just, for me, it's never nice, So when people go over, man, it's not, you're never in nice conditions. People don't go over in nice conditions. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's gonna be, you're gonna be in some stuff for sure.
Wow, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
So then you were a fisherman, and then how did you end up in Hollywood?
So that's another funny story. So, that's funny. So I ended up coming back from Alaska, and that's how I came back. I was out there for about 10 months. Or no, I was out there for the first time for about 12 or 13 months. Then I came back and I wanted to reboot my career. And so when I came back to New York City, I was back in New York City. I was sitting there and the manager reached out to me. He's like, hey man, come out to one of the fights at the Barclays Center. I want you to, I want to talk to you about getting your career going again. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And so I go out to meet him there, and it was at a Gabriel Rosado fight. It was a pretty big fight. He could put me up front row seats and stuff like that. Well, he was kind of trying to play like cool Mr. Manager, and he ended up talking to me. The guy in front of me, who was another manager, he talked to me, and he's like, dude, I know you. He's like, you're Vinny O'Brien. I was like, yeah. And he's like, are you fighting right now? I was like, no, actually, I just got back from Alaska. He's like, Alaska? What? And I was like, yeah, man, I was fishing out there. He's like, dude. He's like, I want to bring you down to Philly. Come to Philly. I'll put you up in a house. We'll give you a stipend. I got a good coach for you. We'll do this. And I'm like, that's the first time I've ever had this in my life offered to me. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
I can
amazing.
do this, And so, just like that, boom. I walk out of the fight and didn't even talk to the other manager that invited me there. Didn't even talk to him. And I walked out of there, and then within a couple of weeks, I went down to Philadelphia. And I was down in Philadelphia, running the Rocky Steps every day, training with an awesome coach, Mike Rafferty. He's awesome guy. He's a devout Catholic, and I'm not the Catholic Church kind of guy, but I just loved his soul, loved his heart, and he had a passion for boxing, a passion for teaching, and I was in his house next door, and he's just an amazing human. I'm still friends with this guy to this day, and he had a great boxing IQ of things I needed to learn. And so one day I go over there, one of our fighters, a guy that he's training, gets invited to Danny Garcia's gym to spar. And then I go with him. He's like, yeah, come with. You'll hit the bag and stuff like that. So I start hitting the bag, and then Angel Garcia, Danny Garcia's dad, sees me, and he eyes me up, and he's, when you bring out your gear a certain type of way, people know when you're a professional or not, Right, and he goes, you pro? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, wait. I was like, 47. He goes, you want to spar? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But I already know what that is. That's me going to the Wolves. I'm a white boy in the gym, in the hoods of Philadelphia, and it's just it's been happening my entire life, right? And so I ended up sparring Danny Garcia's top 2 sparring partners. One guy who was 13-0, another guy who was a 3-time national champ, Olympic hopeful, and blah, blah, blah. These were his top 2 guys. I was only supposed to do 2 rounds with them. I ended up doing 4 rounds against both because I was kicking their butt, and I was doing really well. I haven't sparred, I did a little light sparring 2 weeks later before this, but I was just I found it. I was in it. Everything was grooving, you know, and it was one of those days that I couldn't make a mistake, you know, and I was just, pop, pop, pop. By the end of it, Danny Garcia, Angel Garcia, and their coaches are all coaching their fighters versus me and all this kind of stuff. And it was just a good round. And like everybody in the gym is stopping training, watching us sparring, and we're just cracking. It's just bah, bah. You know, just it's dead silent, and people are just. It's just it was a beautiful moment. And we get done, and Angel goes, "Hey, dude, I want you for a sparring partner for Danny." And I go, okay, cool. He's like, give me your number. So I'm like, I heard this before. I've been down this road and stuff like that. I was like, okay, cool. So I give him my number. I leave. Well, week or so down the road, I go ahead and I get a call from my manager telling me to send my photo in. They're looking for professional boxers for this movie. So I was like, okay. So I send my photo in. The director ends up liking my look and makes me a part of the main nemesis' entourage. That movie happens to be Creed. So I get into Creed. They brought me in initially for professional boxing, but then the director liked my look, and I ended up being like a featured extra or whatever. I got my SAG card, just like that, right?
Right.
I had no idea what SAG card was. I was like, what? Like when the guy said it to me, like the casting agent, I was like, "What'd you just call me?" He's like, "No." He's like, "This is a good thing, dude. It's a good." Like he was laughing. Like I had no idea anything, dude. And so I get there.
Explain to the viewers here that a SAG card takes some people months, some of them over
people
a year.
years. You know, to get the SAG card, you have to be on really big productions, and you have to be on these productions and then get vouchers from these productions and it takes 3 vouchers to then, so you're eligible to become a part of the union, Screen Actors Guild, right? And so that took, as you know, and a lot of people that we know, it's taken people 2-3 years to get that, you know?
Right.
And a lot of people hated me right off the bat when they met me there. They're like, wait, you just got your SAG card right here? And I was like, I was Mr. Naive, just happy to be there. I'm like, yeah, sure. This is awesome. You know, this is cool. You know, so, and then I had which is a beautiful fork in the road, which happened, first day of filming, I had, got done. They said we're going to be on a location for 8 days, and it was 7 days. Or the first day, I didn't know we were finishing up on that last location, and I didn't know what this stuff meant. And so I got done. They said 14 to 16 hour days was going to be our schedule. So I was like, okay. I was like, I'll train in the mornings. I'll get my stuff done, and blah blah blah. Right? This is what my thinking is. And so the first day we get done in 6 hours. And I'm like, well, this is BS, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not making
You're used
money.
to 20-hour days.
And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not making money, though. I was like, that's why I did it. I was like, I wanted some extra money in my pocket. I'm like, now this is messing up my schedule. I'm going to be fighting in a month and a half, 2 months, you know? So I'm like, now in my head, I'm like kind of playing. So that day I'm napping because I got home early, and I'm like napping because I have to spar later on. I get a phone call. It's Angel Garcia. Angel Garcia wants me to be Danny Garcia's lead sparring partner for his camp for Lamont Peterson. And that's every Tuesdays and Thursdays starting off, which as a boxer, it's a really big break in your career. You know, because then they see your talent. Not only are you fighting a 5-time world champion, you know, you're fighting one of the best in the world. He's number 1 in the world, and he's a 5-time, you know, he's one of the best, right? So not only are you sparring him and you're getting amazing, but then they're going to start promoting you and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So he's like, hey, dude, I need you for Tuesdays and Thursdays. He's like, you get in the beginning, we're going to do 4 rounds. You get $500 a day. He's like, as that goes up, we'll up the money. And I go, you don't say no to this opportunity, you know? And I go, dude, I got to call you back, man. I was like, I'm on this Rocky movie right now. And I was like, and I'm booked for the next 7 days. And I gave him my word. And he goes, listen, dude, I'm making phone calls. You got 5 minutes. So I'm like, oh. So I call up the casting agent. I was like, yo, like the first phone call I made, I was like, yo, how serious is this 14 to 16 hour days? I was like, I'm a professional fighter. I got Tuesdays and Thursdays I can spar with his. So I was trying to make it work, have both
Sure,
work.
of course, yeah.
Guy told me, he's like, listen, if it doesn't do 14, 16 hour days, you can leave tomorrow and never come back. He's like, I'm telling you right now, it's gonna. And he was right. So, but I didn't know this. And so he goes, he's like, yeah, that's it. So and then I call my coach next, and I go, dude, I got the Rocky opportunity. The Angel just called me. What the hell do I do? And he starts laughing. He goes, dude, most people don't have one of these blessings, let alone 2. You know, right. He's like, this is beautiful, man. He's like, you got to just talk to God and see what you want, you know, what you feel is right and what you think God wants you to do, and have your moment, you know, figure this out. This is a fork in the road. And I was like, fair enough. So I sat there, and immediately, it's my word. I gave my word to Rocky first. And I sat there, and it felt right. And I said to my coach, too, I was like, I feel like it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I gotta go this way. I was like, I'm going with my gut. And I've done that my entire life. You know, I believe your gut is your saving grace in this world. You know, our head is affected by affected by society, but our gut, I believe our gut is, whether you are spiritual or not spiritual, I believe it's our saving grace. It's our third eye. It's our, you know, it's got our back. It's, for me, it's God. When I look at my gut now, and I've led by it my entire life, I believe my gut is God, you know? And it said Rocky at that moment. And I was running the Rocky. Go ahead.
And you have to be good. You and I had this conversation before. It's the intuition, you know, that works to the T, you know, and we're all just so often doing a great job in ignoring that, you know, and that's, you and I talked about that before, and it's just so important to be in tune, and it's really not that hard. You just have to listen to it and then act with it, you know, and
act. But that's the battle right there, is act.
Right.
You know, how many people, like, you get that, and then and as soon as you have the feeling, you're like, okay, this is my gut telling me to go do this, but then your brain right away goes, no, but this, no, but this, puts a fear in your mind here, puts anxiety in your mind here, puts this here, and then before you know it, you got 10 thoughts of why you shouldn't do it. You know, and you're convincing yourself of why to go against your gut. You know, and so for me, I'm like, I think that's why. It's a big reason why I am where I am today, and I think it's a big reason why you are where you are today, is because of listening to that gut, of listening.
Yeah,
to
absolutely. You just got to believe in yourself, you know. And I thought about that earlier when you were telling me when you got that opportunity to go to Alaska, and that's why I asked you how old or how young you were, and you were saying 24, 25.
Yeah,
that's really young to be able to listen to your gut and make a major decision like this, you know. So you do have a gift for sure, that you have that capability at such a young age to make the smart decision like that. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was
so then you took it, and then what?
What's up?
I said, so then you took that opportunity, which is also integrity, like you said. You know, you already agreed.
It was like, I'm a man of my word, and I felt like it was that ability right there. I was like, listen, I'm a man of my word. I'm gonna do this, and if this is my opportunity, it's gonna be. I was like, but I'm right here, and that again, right there in my gut was what I was supposed to do. Plus, I was running the Rocky steps every night. I'm running the Rocky steps. I swear to God, I was running I had Instagram videos. I'm running it every night, and I'm like, I just happened to move to Philadelphia. I just started training here, and I happened to get an opportunity to be on a Rocky film. I was like, what the hell is this? You know, I was just like, so I call up Angel. I go, listen, dude. I was like, I can't do it. I'm on this Rocky film. I was like, please keep me in mind after. And he's like, yeah, okay. Basically, because like he was pissed off that I snubbed him, you know. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And so I get onto the set, and I'm doing everything wrong, man. I'm doing everything wrong, but like not in a bad way. I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to producers, directors. I'm talking to everyone. I'm just like, hey guys, this is awesome, huh? You know, like just having fun. And there's these extras that have been extras for 10 years, and they're all like kind of snooty and stuff like that, and you know, and they're like, we've been doing this for 10 years, and da-da-da. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I'm going to this Crafty because there's brownies over here, and we don't have Crafty on boats in Alaska. This is awesome. You know, and they're crying. They're like, oh, another long day, and it's like 12 or 13 hours, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'm jacked up on coffee and cookies over here. I was like, this is amazing. You know? So I'm just having so much fun, and I'm watching it. I'm enjoying the process, and there's 1,000 extras at this, you know, because it's a big fight scene, and we're a part of the entourage, and we're walking around, and I'm just doing everything wrong. And right, I guess, and wrong, you know, and I'm having fun, and I'm just a really good attitude, and just really having a good time, you know. And there was this one moment where they were saying like, okay, you guys all walk around, but go sit in the seats. and I saw that there was nobody up on the outside of the ropes. And I was like, oh, there's people always on the outside of the ropes. So I ended up walking there instead of to my seats, and they loved it. And that's how like I ended up getting in the movie and stuff like that, which I think is hilarious, you know. So again, I guess I went with my gut, you know. And I'm watching it, and the boxing starts happening now, right? The first couple of days we were doing the entrance and stuff like that. Now the boxing starts happening. Well, I'm watching the boxing. I'm like, oh God, here comes Rocky, the Rocky boxing. You know, it's gonna be awful, right? I'm judging hard. I'm judging so hard, dude, right? And I got my nose in the air like an idiot. And so it comes out, and I start seeing it, and I start seeing this guy, and he's moving around. He's throwing, you know, he's got good head movement. He's throwing body jabs. He's throwing slips, and I'm like, okay. He's got check hooks and stuff. I'm like, okay, what's up? You know, so I'm watching it, and I go up to him at Crafty. I see him at Crafty, and I'm like, yo, dude. I was like, this doesn't suck. And he starts laughing. And he goes, thanks, dude. I was like, I didn't mean it like that. I was like, I'm a professional fighter. I was like, I thought this was gonna suck. I was like, but it doesn't. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. I was like, yeah. I was like, the check hooks, the body jabs, it looks really real. And he's the guy who got me into the business, but he's still one of my best friends to this day. And that's Anthony Martins. And Anthony Martins, he saw me, and then we started talking. And he started asking me about my life and stuff like that. And he's like, so what's up? And I was like, oh, I just got back from Alaska. He's like, Alaska, what? So we started going, and then, you know, he asked me about my life. And I'm like, yeah, I used to race motocross. I was like, I was Golden Glove champion, professional boxer, Alaskan commercial fisherman. And he's like, dude, you're a stuntman. I was like, I don't know what that means, bro, but thanks. I appreciate it. Like, I had no idea what a stuntman was. No idea. Not. I had no idea. No, like this is to this day, I was one of those naive idiots that thought actors did most of their stuff, right? Like I thought like that they did most of their stuff, and that stunt guys were the guys that did the cars, just did all car scenes, like and did fast driving and the flips and the crashes. But like that's all I thought a stuntman was. I didn't think anything else. And then I thought the physical side of it when they were doing the boxing, I thought they were the ones that taught the actors how to do it. They were just like the athletic extras in a sense. That's what I thought, you know? And I didn't know that it was a job or a career. So I blew him off. I was like, oh, that's cool. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. And we just went back into conversation and talking. And, you know, and just he's looking at me like, because you know how extras are around with stunt guys and stuff like that. I just didn't care. I didn't know, you know? I was just like, oh, whatever, you know? And so then we started, so we were just BSing. And then we had a couple more days. It was like, this was like the third day in, whatever. So we had like another 4 or 5 days of filming. So every day we kept on talking and kind of BSing. He's like, yo, dude, we need beer. And I was like, I got you, man. Don't worry. I found a place and found him a place that was open and stuff like that. And he's like, you know a place that's open around here? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I looked up on Yelp. I was like, yeah, there's a place right on the street. You know, and he's like, oh, perfect. I was like, yeah, cool, got you. So purest way to get to a stuntman's heart is find beer, right? So it's like, you know. So I sat there and you know we helped him out, and then one night we said it was like the last day, and we did some pyro stuff, and I got him some beers, and I was like, hey man, it was really awesome talking to you, because he's just a really good, genuine, awesome dude, you know. And we were having just life conversations and just really cool stuff. And he goes, hey, listen, he's like, take my number down. He's like, let's stay in contact. I was like, because I was like, you know, I have my fight coming up and blah blah blah. He's like, let's stay in contact. And I was like, okay, cool, you know. And then I didn't think anything of it, and we got done with the movie, and my fight fell through that I was training for because they were trying some gangster stuff, which is a reason why I fell out of love with boxing. And and there's this moment that happens for fishermen, and it's this moment where you say, F it, I'm going fishing. And that's what happened. I was like, F it, I'm going fishing. So I went back to Alaska for like another 8 months, 10 months, and I went and fished and saw my homies, and we probably had one of the best seasons we've ever had. We had so much fun, and we killed it on, like, my last set was 31,000 pounds of salmon. It was just unreal stuff, you know.
Unbelievable.
And I ended up coming back, and I was like, I had this moment where I sat there and I'm like, where am I going in life, you know? And I was like, I think I'm done with boxing. I was like, I don't think. And
you're now how old? 30?
No, I was 28 at that time. 28.
Okay.
Around. So about 28. And I was like, I think I'm done boxing. I just don't have the it anymore. I don't want to I don't want to go after people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't know if I want to do fishing anymore. It's like kind of a lonely world, you know. It's cool if you get a girl up there and stuff like that, but you know, if you're out at sea, you're working 10 months out of the year. You know, it's a lonely, brutal world. You know, it's one of those. So I'm like thinking, I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? I'm like, so I want to go back to bartending. I'm like, that's kind of a dark world. You know, it's just I don't know. For me, it was, and other people it could be different. But then I was like, stunts. So what's the stuntman stuff? So I Googled up a little bit and started checking it out. I was like, oh, okay. So I hit up Anthony. I was like, yo, dude, what's up, man? How you been? I just got back from Alaska. He's like, oh, that's awesome. I just got done on, he was on some project in New Mexico or whatever. And I go, yo, and I'm very blunt. I'm one of those guys. I'm like, what's up with this stuntman stuff? I was like, can you make a living at this? And he starts laughing. He goes, dude, he's like, I got 4 properties. And I was like, all from stunts? And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, we make good money. And I was just like, oh, why didn't you lead with that, dude? He's like, so he started laughing, and I was like, he's like, yeah, we get health and pension and da-da-da and all this kind of stuff. He's like, listen, dude, I like you, man. He's like, I think you could do well in this. He's like, you should go after it. So I'm in New York at this time. Actually, at this time, I went back to Jersey, and I was living with some skateboard professionals, which we had a whole half pipe in our warehouse, and we had a 10,000 square foot DIY, one of the biggest DIY skate parks in the East Coast. And I was I was skateboarding. I'm skateboarding, and I'm a bartender with these you know, skateboard pros. These guys are all badasses, you know, awesome guys. It's just another Vinny thing, you know. And
right.
So he starts telling me how to get in the business. He starts telling me I need a headshot, I need a resume. And so the thing, he's like, dude, you know, the only reason I helped you, he's like, dude, everything that you asked, he's like, I asked you to do, he's like, you did it right then and there, and he's like, and you went above and beyond. And he's like, you sat there, he's like, you, with the headshot, he's like, you got him the next day. He's like, with the resume, he's like, you called me, I must have called him 15 times on Fridays and Saturday nights at, you know, 2 in the morning my time, you know, and I'm like, hey, how's this? And send it to him, he's like, nope. He's like, change this, take this out, that's BS, take that out. And I'm like, okay, boom. Because I didn't know the whole format and stuff like that.
Of course,
you know?
yeah.
So he's telling me all this kind of stuff, and he's telling me I got to hustle this and go hang out with these people and train with these people, do this, go here. Everything he told me to do, I did. And he goes, dude, like within like 4 months or so, he's like, you've done everything I've told you to do. He's like, I can't help you anymore. He's
But
like,
you're still in Jersey at the time.
I'm still in Jersey, New York, right? And he's like, I can't help you over there. He's like, you got to come to LA. And I go, okay. So I gave my 2 weeks notice, and at the bar, and I took a flight over, and I lived with him and his family, for the first 3 months that I was here. I lived in his guest bedroom, and you know, he took me under his wing, and he got me my first job. And he put my name in for my first job. They asked for boxers, and Shauna Duggins took a chance on me, and I did a boxing scene. And then from that point on, I hustled everything else I had to get. You know, I busted my butt, and he showed me the principles of what to be a stuntman. That's what he learned. He learned from the old schoolers, you know, of the hustle, the integrity, the training, you know, all these kinds of things, and putting yourself out there and hustling sets. And I love hustling sets, you know, and that kind of deal. And on Fridays and Saturday nights, he loved it because everybody would go out drinking, and I would be hustling sets and waiting 6, 7, 8 hours to get on and meet a coordinator, you know?
Yeah.
And I had some really awesome people that I talked and met up with and talked to and told me, hey, it's not about who you know, like Colin Fallenweider, who's a G in his own, he's a G, right? And he's like, hey, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And so I hustled even harder, and I trained even harder, and you know, everybody just thinks I'm a boxer in the beginning, but then I come out and I can do flips, and I can ride bikes, and I can do this. So I just kind of tried to expand what I needed to know, and I knew I needed more trampoline work and air awareness, and just kept on, you know, working my butt off. And I tried as much as I can to put what I would do as a professional fighter in stunts, you know, and I was like, if I'm not going to work 40 hours a week, if I'm not working on set, I'm not doing these, I was like, I should be devoting 40 hours a week to being a stuntman. And whether that's training over here, doing this over here, better my body here, it should be 40 hours towards, you know, sending out, because Anthony even showed me how to send out hard mail. where I'd put my reel and my resume inside that, you know what I mean? Which was nothing. I had nothing of a resume, nothing of a reel, but just was set hard mailing, and I'd spend, 3 hours a week to that, of hard mailing stuff, and printing it out and stapling my headshot and, putting that in an envelope and sending it out and, hustled my butt off. And then until I got an opportunity to, I kept on hustling my butt off, and then there was I got a little bit known, and then there was an opportunity to be a double for this kid on a show, 13 Reasons Why. And I was a really good double for him. And you had to ride a BMX bike and all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm with Danny Moncada. Danny Moncada is one of the twins, the killer twins from Breaking Bad, right? But he's one of my best friends. And so this is a really funny story. So we sit there and we're going, and the coordinator reaches out to me. He goes, I need a video of you bunny hopping a bike, sliding around, jumping around, wheeling, and then sliding your bike. And I don't have a bike. I don't have a car in LA. You know what I mean? I got nothing right now, So I'm like, shit, okay, what am I going to do? So we're at a skate park with some of his homies and stuff like that. And I'm like, my mind started talking to me, went against my gut. And I was like, I should find a bike, and da-da-da. And Danny's like, let's do it. Go get one. So I go, I'm like, you know what? All right. So I'm looking around the skate park, no bikes, nothing, right? Like, damn, right? So, and the coordinator said, get a mountain bike, right? So I run to the street, and I start looking around. I see a kid, probably about a quarter of a mile ahead of me, riding a mountain bike away from me. So I start running down the road, right? I'm running down the road. And I'm like, hey, dude. I'm waving him down. The kid's like, what the hell? And I was like, dude, this is going to sound really weird. And I have no money to my name at this time too, right? Which is this cheap offer. But I go, can I just borrow your bike for like 5 minutes? All I got to do is just jump it around and slide it. And I was like, and my buddy's got to film it. I was like, I'll give you $10. And the kid's like, okay, right? So like he's just like, all right. Like he was just so sketched out. So then he doesn't want to ride the bike back because I'm walking. So it's just a really awkward walk on the way back. Like we're not talking at all. Like this kid's like looking at me like, what the hell is this about to be? Well, Daniel Moncada is tatted up, shaved head, beard, looks mean, right? Looks mean. And I look like I didn't realize it until I get there, and this kid looks at me, and like his face just dropped and got white. Like he was like, oh, these kids are robbing me. You know what I mean? Like just thought. And I was like, yo, dude. I was like, trust me. I was like, he'll be right here. And he's like, so this kid's just like, okay, whatever. So I jump around, slide around, boom, do a couple things. My buddy Danny, he films, and I sent it to the coordinator, and I was a good double for him, and the coordinator's perfect. You got the job. And then that was, that's kind of the start of me, and that was, that was it.
What a story! That's crazy.
That was, and then I just kind of kept the hustle going and kept the rocking and rolling, and that led to more. As you know, it goes in this industry, and more people found out who I was and what I can do, and led to more, and it just kind of goes like that. So it's but yeah, that was the start, man. That was the start.
That's crazy.
That was the start.
That's amazing. Wow, can't even ask you. Like, what the worst injury you ever had was your ankle, right?
Worst injury I ever had was my ankle. Either breaking it or or tearing the 3 ligaments. Both sucked equally. Both sucked, So then that, because I had a full leg cast on for breaking my ankle, and that's a funny story how I took that off, soaked in a bucket of water, and sawed it through with my brother watching. Took me 2 hours, but so just let everybody know, if you ever try and soak a cast in water, it doesn't work. Just
What do you do to keep yourself sane and grounded in this business? Because it can be such ups and downs.
Sane and grounded doing this business. That was the biggest, I think, hurdle in the beginning for me. I think some people make this job a little bit more hectic and a little bit extra problems than it has to be. There's politics and a lot of extra stuff that I think all the great ones don't even take part in. But some of the ones that just like to mess around. But for me, I found out that we have the greatest job in the world. Right? We have the greatest job in the world. And I'm not going to So if I have the greatest job in the world, I'm going to have the greatest life in the world, right? So how can I still be Vinny O'Brien? And Vinny O'Brien likes to adventure, and Vinny O'Brien likes to explore. So many times I can go and ride my dirt bike, or I go and camp out, and like I'll just get my truck and set up a hammock in between trees into my truck and just camp out and rock and roll, or go to a concert, or whatever I can do to just kind of have either Vinny time or people time or whatever I want to do, and just kind of keep it normal, keep it light, and have fun, right? Like we're in this to have fun. We're in this life to have fun, and I train my butt off. I work my butt off. So I work hard. I play hard, and that's and so I think kind of to keep myself light is there, and then keep myself grounded is kind of always stay in contact with the close and the good friends. It's like you and I. Like we can talk for every day, or we can talk every 3 months, and we'll pick right back up.
Yeah, right.
I think the good friends that you have that are like that are the ones that you can pick right back up with. And so the people that I have around me and the people that I try and talk to on a daily basis are kind of same mentality, same vibrancy of life and energy, and and just want to have fun. And, how can we do that?
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think
And how can we help somebody else achieve the same happiness, the same goals, whatever that might be, for us, being a stuntman is the greatest job in the world. For someone else, it may not be. Of course,
may not be.
But for us, it's perfect. What was how long you been doing a stunt? How long you been?
I've been a
stunts
stuntman.
now?
I've been a stuntman now for about 4 years, 4 to 5 years. So
That's it.
that's it.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, I feel like we've known each other way longer than that, and you certainly have done really well for yourself in such a short amount of time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So okay, so that's a young career. What are some of the stunts on your bucket list? Like something you always wanted to do that you haven't done yet?
I immediately want to
Car turnover.
Turnover. I got an experience of a good T-bone, turnover, air ram, or I've done air rams, pipe ram, cannon. I want to do just I want to be the guy. You know what I mean? I want to be doing some good stuff, and so for me, I like to I don't just say, oh, I'm an all-arounder and not train. I like to train my butt off and try and be prepared for the opportunity. So I have my drift cars, I have my cars that I rock and roll with, and I have my bikes, and so for me, I just want to be the guy. I want to be the guy that can do whatever you need, and so for me, I want my dream is to do all the coolest gags all over the world, so do a turnover, or do a pipe ram, or do a cannon right in front of the Big Ben, or do just all over the world and just around some buddies and friends, and I just really that's what I love, and I think you'll be in the same boat. That's what I miss about the industry being gone right now, is that camaraderie on sets. There's the ones that you gotta deal with the BS and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff, but when you get to the good ones, it's that camaraderie of that brotherhood and that sisterhood, right? It's between the stuntmen and the stunt women, who are you get a lot of amazing individuals who want to see you do well and want the job to go well. Hey, I want you to do your job well because I want to do my job well. I want you to do your job well, and we all walk away and we get to go home to our families, or we get to go home and continue our lives, and we still get to be here because I don't think the public understands how much the dangers that we do see on a daily basis in our job, and they think oh yeah, and how many people on set will say, oh yeah, I could be a stuntman, I could fall down, and it's like, yeah, okay, you can say that, and it's not just falling down, it's it's situations that you don't even think are going to be a hairy or a scary situation, and it turns hectic and hairy real quick, and there's a person that you can kill here, or do this, and there's people's lives in your hands, and then your own life in your hands, so for me it's like I kind of went off on a tangent here, but
no, not at all. You're totally right.
But yeah, so for me, I just want to enjoy. I want to be on really great big productions with a lot of great, amazing friends, and I do want to do some great stuff. I want to do it all. You name it, I want to do it. So for me, that's where I want to be at. Yeah,
you will. Have you done any fire burns yet?
I have. I did a fire burn while doing a burnout on a motorcycle.
No way.
Which is right here. That's right there. Yeah.
Let me see.
So that was about a halfway. I had fire from my knees all the way up, and I was doing a burnout on the motorcycle.
Very cool. Who prepped you?
Action Factory.
Okay, great.
Great guys.
Yeah.
Great guys.
Amazing
stuff.
Yeah. They set me up a few times, and it's
Yeah.
always you always feel at ease. They're doing a fantastic job, and it's
Yes.
gonna be all right. And
They're prepared. They do what they have to do, and they have all the correct equipment that they need, which is awesome.
where do you see yourself retiring one of these days?
An island.
Ireland?
No, an island.
Oh, an island. Okay.
No, I don't know where my career is going to go, and there's a lot of young bucks that are sitting there that I want to be a coordinator, and I want to do all this kind of stuff. And for me, I give homage to all the veterans and all the people that have been before us. A lot of you veterans that are in this game and done so many amazing things that we haven't even come close to. And then we think of the Hal Needhams and all those amazing stuntmen before us that did the gags before they were even figured out. Before
Right.
they even So you look at So for me, it's like I want to be a successful stuntman first before I go to anything. And before I coordinate or anything like that. I believe I have a good 10 years left in me of some solid stuff. As a stuntman.
Totally.
And I want to build my life and. It's a thing. A theory that I had in boxing. I also will have in stunts. Is I don't ever want. And I said this about boxing, but I never wanted boxing to retire me. I wanted to retire in boxing, and the stunts goes the same. And we have some old timers that still rock and roll in the '60s and the '70s, and they're in their '60s and their '70s and stuff like that. And is that going to be my path? I'm not certainly sure. The one thing I do know is I don't know it. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do hope that I've done enough gags and invested my money the right way and my energy the right way to where I can retire in stunts and not have it retire me. So for me, I hope that's kind of my game plan to where I can go out and build myself and hopefully be a very good, stuntman as a teammate for everybody that's there and create safe sets and create safe environments for a lot of people and also nail the gags when we got to nail the gags,
Right. Yeah. No, I have no doubt you're going to, have a great career as a performer, but also then move on up and start coordinating. Probably not even too long from now, because, you're also an alpha male. You're a leader. You can explain situations really well, and you're articulate. I think you're going to be doing great as a stunt coordinator, and that doesn't mean you necessarily have to completely retire from performing. I've been coordinating for a long time. I still enjoy performing now and then, but you just also have to be aware of the fact that it's a young man's game. It's an extreme sport. Eventually. You don't want to do certain things anymore. I used to love doing car hits, right? Used to love doing them. When I started doing stunts when I was 16 years old, I used to practice getting hit by cars. I mean, that's how crazy I love that stuff, right? And then through my 20s, I don't know how many car hits I've done, many of them, and never got hurt by them, right? They get you, but I never got injured doing them. And I haven't done one for years, right? And so 6 months ago, I swear, Vinny, I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder how excited I would be right now to get a phone call to do a car hit. I'm turning 45 this year. And I swear to God, dude, 2 months after that thought, I got a fucking phone call to do a car hit, right? And it was for my good friend Joe Manganello, which I've been friends with for 19 years. First time I doubled him was on Spider-Man, and we became friends. And he's super loyal. And he says, "Hey, I'm doing this movie. There's a bunch of stunts in it, and there's a car hit, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, all right. I guess I'm not that excited right now to get a phone call to do one." But of course, you do it, right? And of course. And I tell you, man, that was a thumper. It was an up and over. 18 mile an hour, and you can only control the first quarter of it.
Yeah.
And then you're just up for a ride, you know.
You're a ragdoll. Yeah. See you later.
And yeah, right. And so I remember actually Bob Yerkes, he showed up on set to see it.
No way.
Yeah, Geneva and her mom, they showed up to watch it. Because, you know, it's like, it's a decent sized gag.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bobby was like, he went way too fast, you know. But I walked away from
Bobby,
it.
dude. Bobby's awesome, man. He's awesome.
Oh man, talking about a guy that's been around forever.
Been around forever, and still has a backyard. I trained at Bob Yerkes.
Yeah. So I lived there for months when I first moved to the States.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a playground to be in the backyard.
He was the first person I knew in this business. You know.
What a legend! Like when we were talking about guys who have done stuff, you know what I mean, before it was even figured out.
Dude, crazy, like insane. There was a movie, trying to remember what it was called, where he doubled the lead actor. Gosh darn it. Anyhow, it was in the 80s, and there was a construction scaffold around the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. Right? They were renovating it in the 80s. And way up there, there's a foot chase that ended up in that scaffold. Yeah. And he is hanging on to one of those pipes and swings out, and he's hundreds of feet above the ground, right? And no harness, just like a little, what they call a circus safety loop.
Yep.
On a handle, right?
Yep.
And he's swaying up there on that pipe, which is unbelievable. And then slides down on her. I mean, it's insane. Anyhow, just talking about old school stunts, right?
Yeah, man. You know, we can't get caught up. You know, we all do. We do some awesome stuff, you know. But when you go back to those guys and what they did, you know, it's just, you're humbled by it, man. At least I know I am. You know, I see these kind of things, and yeah, at least for me, I'm just. And as getting back to our point, like, I know we're gonna, you know, there's gonna be a time when I'm not gonna want to do those gags. You know, that's gonna be, you know. So it's just, you know,
you're still gonna do it though.
Yeah, you know. I'm still gonna send it, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, that's you know, that's a reason. It's my company name, all right.
You promised me one of those hats, by the way.
You got one, dude. You got one, and the back says "Shut up and send it." You know?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so you know I'm gonna send it, you know, so I'm gonna go for it. But you know, hey, just like we all know, like I said, we never know what's gonna come. You know, we all can plan, but you know, God and the universe will show us what's really going to be the plan, you know?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But yeah, so.
Well, dude, man, it's been great. Thank you so much for your time. I could sit here and talk for another hour and a half, but we'll do that again the next time we'll have you.
Yeah, I love it, dude. This has been awesome, man. First off,
isn't it?
I love just catching up with you and just BSing, and we've never had a talk like this of just, you know, of where it started and where we come from and our views on things and stuff like that, and yeah, man, it's been very enjoyable. I love it, man. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I love what you're doing.
Yeah, appreciate it. Now, before we go, what would your advice be to someone that would like to follow your footsteps?
To be a stuntman?
Yeah.
Or a stunt woman?
Stunt woman, yeah. I don't know if you can give advice in that aspect. But
yeah.
Stunt woman.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a different line. You know, to just get in the stunt world, right?
Right.
For me, I say, you know, get a craft, you know, and if it's just to be, you got to be an all-arounder, you know, and for me, it's like, how can you be an all-arounder, you know, and so, you know, you got to work your butt off. You got to find the things that you need. You need to be great. You need to be able to throw punches and kicks and be able to fight and know how to fall and have good air awareness, you know, and be clutch in the moment. So, you know, I think, me personally, whether they go professional in it or not, I think competition settings for people are amazing. So whether that's jiu-jitsu, whether that's racing cars, whether that's, you know, playing competition chess, you know, obviously that doesn't go to us, but whatever it is competition-wise in a physical setting that people can get into, I do it, you know. It's not just about going to the gym, oh yeah, I trained this and stuff like that. I feel like you should train it, get into a competition setting, and it'll advance you farther, and I think it'll also help you learn that pressure cooker situation, you know, to feel that pressure in that moment. Because, you know, everybody goes, oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah, you can do that when it's all, you know, rainbows and butterflies outside and nobody's yelling at you that we're losing the light. You know,
Right.
but now we're losing the light, and we have one shot to get this. We have one car, one windshield, whatever it is, and now it's time that you got to perform. You gotta juggle your chainsaws and your Molotov cocktails, and and do all this and act and do all every which way, and you got to nail it. We all have the running joke, right? With actors, they'll sit there and they'll do 30 takes of dialogue, right? And they're laughing and cracking up, and then it gets to us at the end of the day. We're losing the light. Come on, okay. I need you to get hit by this car, flip up, jump over here. I need you to land, get up, start shooting, and then you're gonna get shot right here. But then you're gonna fall down 20 feet. I need you to land and hit this X right here. Don't land a foot over because you're gonna hit the camera. And you gotta do you have all these details that I think you need to have some life experience with that stuff,
Right.
I think
Totally.
you gotta, I think a lot of the great ones, like a lot of us, have some really great life experiences that have built us for that, It's like I said, everybody can do something once in a perfect setting, but can you do it once in a non-perfect setting? Can you do it 10 times in a non-perfect setting, without being hurt? As we know, we trained to do this, and, I think it's 50% training and 50% instincts, so for me, I think it's off of this long tangent, what I would say is the best way is to prepare yourself. Know what a stunt man or a stunt woman is. Know what it takes to be a stunt man and a stunt woman, and then train disciplined in those disciplines. Train your butt off. Put your time in. Because there's, the one thing I do see is a lot of these young bucks, a lot, people that are even my age and stuff like that, jumping in, and they're very, very thirsty, and they want to jump in, and they want the spotlight, they want the shine, they want these runs of the movies, and even myself, you want all this kind of stuff, but maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe God in the universe isn't giving it to you, because what happens if you break your back on that? What if if you're not prepared for that opportunity and you get seriously hurt? So I say prepare for the opportunity, because for me, what I've done in my life, success is when preparation meets opportunity. If you are not prepared for an opportunity, failure is inevitable. So prepare your ass off. If you're not getting those jobs, you're not doing that, there is more stuff you can be trained in. See how many people we talk to, and they're like, oh yeah, but I'm at gym and I'm working all this kind of stuff. I'm like, that's all good. I was like, but they're going to get the top 5 parkour guys, who have been training at this for 10 years. What else can you do? What else can you get better at? There's plenty of stuff, myself included, of how many things we can get good at, right? And so there's plenty of things that we can be putting our energy towards to make us a better all-arounder and prepared for the opportunities, so that we do them successful, we do them safely, and and we keep it moving.
Dude, great advice, great last words. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, we could do another show right now, but I gotta go feed Geneva, my daughter.
Hey, give her a hug for me. Give her a hug for me, right?
Yeah, I will. She was all excited to hear that I'm gonna talk to you today. She's like, "Oh man, I love that guy," and I said, "Did you know that he had a golden glove?" And she's like, "Yeah, he told me that." So.
I love her. Yeah. She's awesome. She's a rock star in her own essence.
She is.
I tell you that right now, dude. That's awesome. But dude, this has been a blast, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll see you next time.
Dude, I'm coming in. I'll come and visit you.
Please do.
It's going to happen. You already know
absolutely.
That. All right,
do
brother.
it. All right, amigo.
All right, man.
I love you too, man. Be
Have
good.
a good day. Later.
All right.